Yeah, we decided to drive down on a Thursday to race on a Friday to come back Sunday.
I kind of feel like this is like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Like I need to change out
Take
my
your shoes off,
now.
hang up our sweater.
Yeah, exactly. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new series under Dad Mods.
Yeah, our first official series.
And it's a special one. It's been a few years in the making. We're really excited to put this one together. We know it's called the Year of the E30. It's technically been about a year and a half or so, maybe a little bit give and take. But it's sort of documenting
the struggle, the enjoyment,
the blood, the sweat, the tears, the
of owning
saliva,
an old BMW, and just some of the adventures it's gotten to go on, some of the headache it's caused, and a few rare smiles tossed in there.
Rare? I think there's been a couple of peaks.
A couple.
Really
lots
good
of lows,
peaks for you.
couple highs.
Yep. I think the main question to kick things off is just why an E30?
Well, I originally had a Miata.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem I had with that is I couldn't put my kids in it. I actually called my wife one day. My daughter was maybe 6 months at the time, 7 months, and asked her, like, hey, do you mind if I take Harper with me in the Miata? Like, she's got a car seat. She's going to be way safer than me. And she said no, so I did it anyways.
Oh, man. That always works out great.
Yeah, which really upset my wife.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized I never got to drive the car as much as I wanted to. It was more of a commuter to and from work, and I could have just gotten a Honda Civic for that.
Right.
So ended up selling that and then buying some parts for another project, and this E30 just popped up on Craigslist. And
nice.
I'm like, I got at least to look at it.
Yeah, and you've always loved driver's cars.
Yeah,
as long as I've
exactly.
known you, you've really liked cars that have a certain degree of simplification to them, that are just sort of like, there aren't a lot of driver mods or anything like that to them. Like
Yeah, they're very good basic.
Yeah, you don't have traction control and shit like that in the kind of cars that you like.
No.
So yeah, it makes sense that you would go from a Miata and say, okay, well, what's another good platform that allows me to actually have the kids in the back
Actually
of it,
drive the thing.
and you
more
end
than a
up in
couple
an
times a week.
E30.
I remember getting it home and showing the wife, like, yeah, this is my new fun car I bought and all this. And she's just like, what?
What is this? And
You went from a Miata to this?
well, and the thing is, like, the Miata was kind of pretty too.
It was pretty.
It was like a hard top, bright red.
It was
in
lowered,
really good
some
shape.
nice wheels.
Yeah, you lowered it.
Yep.
You put a nice set of wheels on it.
Had good, did
S-drives.
Yep, did S-drives, did performance brake pads on it and rotors.
Yeah.
So it was a good
It
driver's
was a
car.
great car to start off with,
Yeah.
and then you picked up the E30, which was a stock E30.
And it's an ES model to top it off. So
Yeah.
it doesn't have the 2.5. It doesn't have a lot of the nice features that the I have. It's an 86, so to that first generation before they really kind of ironed out everything. And in
Right.
87, they started to switch everything. They made them a little bit prettier. The interiors were nicer.
Oh, sure. Okay, yep.
And then early spring, I put Vogland lowering springs on it.
That's right.
Haven't touched the shocks
So
yet.
funny. So you had Vogland lowering springs on it, and then I think we had Falcon tires
Yes.
on the
at the time.
basket weaves.
Yep.
Or Euro weaves, technically.
And then, like you
And
said,
that was it.
That was it, and it was okay. It
Yeah.
looked kind of stockish, kind of not. And then, yeah, we started to take it on some adventures.
And that brings us to Kansas. So I kind of cut to our very beginning, our kicking off that morning and the drive down. It was, I don't know, it was one of those mornings, one of those moments where it's sort of like, this is very clearly a good decision. Like it had that little sense of adventure to it.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, we're about to drive this 1986 BMW with 200,000 miles on it.
10 hours.
10 hours? 10 hours.
10 hours through 3 major cities. We had
Yeah.
the Twin Cities, Des Moines and Kansas City.
And I think the morning that we took off, there wasn't a whole lot of snow on the ground at that time, but it was like days before that there was a lot of
some snow. Yeah, it was a really weird time to leave.
And it was so funny, the drive down, to have the transition from northern Minnesota weather, which is snowy, sleety, whatever.
To like 70 and sunny.
Yeah,
Kansas. It was
just
fantastic.
gorgeous by the time we hit southern Minnesota.
Yeah, and luckily only one small hiccup the whole way down.
Yeah, which is in Albert Lee.
No, we were just south of the cities at a random gas station, which we happen to stop at every time we're down there.
Yeah, I don't know how it works out that way.
And noticed that the plastic nut for the coolant temp sensor in the reservoir was seeping just a little bit. Like, I'm just gonna tighten this up a little, and no.
Didn't you loosen it a time? Something happened?
No, it didn't. I don't think it was quite seated all the way, so I went to go tighten it, and it made it a little bit more cockeyed, and it just geysered.
Move!
I remember all the people pumping their gas, kind of looking at us like,
oh, well,
what are
because
they
it just
doing?
douched the entire engine bay. I mean, it hit exhaust manifold. It got tucked in between the intake manifold and the head. And
Got
it just
some on the fender,
sizzled
the window a little bit.
for hours. But for the most part, the rest of the drive wasn't too dramatic, at least until, what is it, Kansas City?
Kansas City was nothing, like the car was great. Stop and go traffic, the car was fantastic the whole way. But Kansas City was doing construction.
Yeah.
And we got lost and off the highway and we drove through a park at one point in time. And then just a random neighborhood.
Yeah.
Where we pulled over and yanked up the phone. It's like, okay, we need directions. And the first person to come by wasn't a, hey, are you lost? It's a, hey, did you break down?
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, you see the old E30 and you just immediately think,
Like, oh, she's
surely
running
it's broken.
No, it's running fantastic.
Yeah, but, so, I mean, getting to Kansas it really it honestly surprised me at how turnkey the car really was. We had those couple of little hiccups, but all in all, that really wasn't that big of a deal.
No,
and getting into Kansas, I mean, the first thing we went to was Dylan, Rylan, and Jeremy's place.
Yep.
Settled in.
Crashed for the night. I mean, ended up passing out on a couch while you were sleeping on an air mattress.
Right. And then basically got ourselves ready for the following day, which was
racing. Yeah, we decided to drive down on a Thursday to race on a Friday to come back Sunday.
Yeah.
Fucking Mini is so fun.
Yeah, so I mean, what do you think you're most impressed with so far?
It's gotta be the Mini. That Mini just looks
Yeah. So what was the most memorable part of the racing for you?
Probably the first turn. So I've never been on this track. When I was little, I went out there and saw some drag racing, but I don't really remember the road course too much.
Yeah.
And that morning before Dylan went to work, he took a half day. He's like, hey, just a heads up, you're gonna want to do some research on turn 1. Okay, thanks for that.
Oh man, that's
So-
kind of cryptic. Like, just so you know.
So the main straight, you come out of the straight, you do the straight, and it goes the length of the quarter mile, and goes slightly up a crest, and then immediately after it dips down and then goes through a chicane.
That's fantastic.
And he's like, if you let up, you'll spin out and go into the toolies.
Oh, let off oversteer kind of
exactly.
thing.
You get light, and next thing you know, you're going sideways.
Yikes.
And you know me, and your first words to me, don't break the car.
Don't break-
And I'm pretty sure I was halfway through the first lap, and I was
wish
like,
I could-
screw it.
I wish I could sound so much more, heroic kind of thing. Like, not the guy who's
You were in
like,
straight
don't
dad mode.
break
You were in
the
dad
car.
mode.
Like, I want to get home. But yeah, and I knew who I was dealing with. I knew that this was going to be an adventure, and honestly, it wouldn't have been as awesome of a time if it wasn't exactly the way it turned out. And you hit, didn't you you're driving and you're just like, sorry, Jake.
Yeah, I made
downshift.
I think through the first 3 corners before I was finally like, you know what? No, I'm here to race. I'm gonna race and have some fun.
Exactly. There's tons of U-Hauls there.
Yeah,
in
and
Topeka.
everybody at the track was super friendly. The rules for the event were you couldn't pass in the corners. They had marked areas with cones on the straights, and if you were holding up traffic, you kind of scoot over and flag people by. But there was another E30 there that was swapped. There was a beefed up Mini Cooper. There was a
That
rental
Mini
car.
Cooper was incredible. We'll definitely cut to that.
Yeah.
That
Mini
Mini Cooper
is
was just wild.
Beautiful car.
So, all in all, you felt like it went really good. That was a really great first competitive road course experience.
Yeah. Had some iffy corners. Excuse me. Had some iffy corners where there's a chicane on the back. First couple laps, kind of just getting a feel for everything, but the more comfortable I got, the harder I wanted to push the car, and the harder I wanted to push myself. The more I realized that the harder I pushed myself, the more I was in an 80s car.
Oh, sure.
And almost went through a chicane, but kind of hit rumble strips and a little bit of dirt and straightened it out.
Oh, sure. And I feel like that's not an uncommon thing. Even for people that are really competitive and skilled, oftentimes you're wanting to get that tight. So it probably didn't look too unnatural.
Probably not.
Other guys probably knew to
like,
give you a little space, maybe, but
they just saw the license plate. It's like they're from Minnesota.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
cool.
And let's talk about that, because it was really neat how well received that was.
I was surprised by how many people, and not just BMW guys, but how many guys came up to me and like, where's your truck and trailer?
Yeah.
And like, what truck and trailer?
Yeah.
No, we drove it 10
Don't have
hours
one.
to race it, to drive it back home.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, I'm from Kansas City. I'm an hour north, and I trailered my car.
you know, I mean, everybody was super cool and they were really impressed, and they got such a kick out of the fact that not only did we drive this entire way, that now we're filming the heck out of it, and we're just making a whole weekend and an adventure out of it, you know?
And that whole day of racing was fantastic. Like I
Yeah.
said, everyone was super friendly. I had people offer me tools if I needed tools for anything.
Right.
The other gentleman in the E30 came up to me. He's like, "Oh, I noticed in this corner that you get a little light and stuff," and he was giving me pointers and all that kind of stuff. And
That's awesome.
the only gripe I have about the whole racing experience is not the experience itself. My buddy Dylan rented a car.
Oh, man.
It was a V6
Yeah.
Maxima, if I remember correctly, and it was quicker than me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna beat his rental car.
But he's sitting in a CVT powered car that's about like driving a sofa.
Yeah,
and
pretty
you're
much.
at an E30. So don't feel too bad, you know. So yeah, man. And then, I mean, after that event, we kind of went out on the town and had a little bit of fun.
Did some urban exploring.
Yep, exactly. I think I had never heard of the place before, but that asylum,
Menegers.
that was wild.
So yeah, Menegers used to be a mental hospital, mental asylum.
Yeah, some kind of asylum thing.
Yeah, and they shut down a while back, and that's kind of bought out by some radio stations and stuff like that, and switched hands.
Mm-hmm.
And now the city owns it, and they're trying to keep people from breaking into it and vandalizing it and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
Well, when you do something like that, people are gonna break in and do stuff.
Yeah, right.
So yeah,
Well, and we basically walked in the front door.
exactly.
You know,
And
it was all pretty wide open, and we couldn't help but kind of poke around.
Like there's a flagpole on the very top. You like to put, some way it's Yeah, you used to be able to walk all the way through both of these. Find records and everything.
Yeah, that's true. Aloha. Everything is permitted. I am not going upstairs though. Chicken butt. Ugh. I think creepiest part is that, this is where they torch the bodies. Yeah.
Besides having the sightseeing, doing a couple of little photo shoots with the E30, making the most of that, the drive back,
Yeah.
zero drama.
Zero issues. The thing got better fuel economy than my Forester does on the highway.
It gets almost double what my Legacy averages.
Yeah, I was getting like low 30s on the way back, and it's like, okay, apparently you're just happy if you get the crap kicked out of you for a day.
We have, how many miles did we figure that was?
Oh, man. Probably, including the racing, I'm not sure how far it is. I'm going to say 600 roughly, give or take a little bit.
So ballpark somewhere in there.
It's a pretty lengthy distance.
How close to 20 hours of driving?
20 hours of just driving
Yep.
there and back, not including driving in town, and hours worth of racing.
Just cruising.
Yeah.
Yep.
Going through a graffiti tunnel. Where perfectly,
Cat's anus.
Yep, perfectly legible letters. Sarah looks like a cat's anus.
That was so funny. Yeah, so I mean, if we can wrap this thing up, that was first big experience,
Yeah.
picking the car up, a few little choice mods,
Yeah,
and
making
then straight into one of the
sure it's
coolest
solid.
adventures that you and I have ever had
So
together.
much fun.
It was a blast.
Awesome.
So that about wraps it. So thank you for joining us for episode 1. We'll see you on episode 2.